Steel Plaza. Please stand clear of the doors.
Right back here on the Steel Plaza Podcast. Joining us today is Dominick of Chip and the Charge-Ups, most recently known for Black and Gold Christmas that kind of just blew up overnight over the holiday season. And we are going to be talking about an upcoming show, an album release party that will take place at the Hard Rock Cafe in April. I know in a prior episode we talked about having an all-ages show and why it benefits the entire music community here in Pittsburgh. And it's something that needed to happen. We talked about it on a show, and now we're making it happen. It's come to fruition. Chip, let's talk about all-ages shows.
Cool, man. All-ages shows, I mean, as we talked about before, it's kind of like serving the present and the future. You know, I think from a venue owner's perspective, over 21 shows serve their pocketbooks best because of the alcohol sales and the markup on it, but they do nothing to kind of nurture future customers. You know, they kind of exclude people from good shows in the music scene, and they may grow up and want to do other things. So all ages shows and shows where, you know, maybe it's under 21 with parent or guardian help to get younger crowds into venues. So, you know, when there are 21 plus shows, you have an active audience that's enthusiastic about the music scene, ready to roll and into what you're selling. So all ages shows and shows where minors are permitted are just, you know, they're awesome. And I think they're smart for bands, and they're smart for venue owners for having a sustainable business going forward, you know, 3, 5, 7 years in the future.
Absolutely. And there are two different definitions of an all-ages show. One is anyone could go, and the other has different guidelines.
Yeah, so a true all-ages show is where any person of any age can go by themselves and get in. And then there's under 21 with parent or guardian, where someone under 21 can get in, but they must be with a parent or guardian. So in that case, you know, a 15-year-old can't just show up by themselves and get in the door. But if that same 15-year-old comes with a parent or guardian, they'll be let in. So, you know, it's kind of a little more restrictive, but the same music fan can go if they can, you know, drag along a parent or guardian.
And that's true of this album release show that you have coming up at the Hard Rock Cafe, and that's in April, right?
Correct, April 4th, Hard Rock Cafe, Pittsburgh.
So for this show, and we're calling it an album release for the Chip and the Charge-Ups, but do you think that they should change the name of album release to something else, as traditional albums are not released or CDs are not released? A lot of people call them CD release parties, and a lot of times there's not CDs there. Should we change it to body of work release party?
A couple of thoughts on that. You know, I definitely think that CD release party is kind of losing its luster as more people go to streaming or other media. I do think album release party is a smart title, because even if people are not going to walk away from physical products, they still got the party, and it's still a release of an album that may be out there in available for streaming or download. At the same time, I do have to say that in my experience, 15 to 30% of attendees at album release parties do leave with physical music, whether that be a CD, vinyl, USB stick, or something of that nature.
A T-shirt.
Yeah. Well, I'm not even. The percentage is probably even higher if you want to throw in T-shirts. But just talking about the album, 15 to 30% of people in attendance at album release parties do leave with a physical album in some form. You know, maybe a certain portion of those don't even open up the shrink wrap, but just like have it as a souvenir, and then they stream it at the same time because that's what they have their subscription to. But people do spend money on physical albums at album release parties. So I don't think it would behoove a band to not call it an album release party. And, I think everyone is familiar with the term album. Some people associate that with vinyl. Some people associate that with CDs. Some people associate that with any type of media. But it's a very familiar term, and I'd caution not using it if you're actually releasing an album.
Absolutely. And I think that, the dictionary definition of album is an album of works. So those people that are stuck in the mindset that they're going to go home with an actual LP, that's just not a thing. That's rare. It's a rare thing. I know when I go to concerts, I don't want to leave empty-handed. I want to have that memorabilia, that keepsake that I've been there. I have been to so many shows I can't even fathom the number. And I always get the T-shirt and I get the LP, even though I don't have a working record player at the moment. I get that LP because now I have that keepsake. But that LP now, that vinyl, comes with a digital download code with it that I can get all the songs to listen to on digital media, and I'll still have that LP. So I'm still walking away with something that's usable to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be a souvenir. It can be something you listen to. One of the cool trends of the last few years is that, albums, or I should more accurately say vinyl, has a lot of pizzazz to people. Some people really, really like vinyl. So if as a band, if you can afford to give it to them and you have enough people to buy your vinyl, then I say go for it,
Absolutely go for it. And vinyl is right now it's such in demand that it is now the expensive thing to get made as a band. It's now the expensive thing, where it used to be CDs were the expensive thing to get made, and now CDs are basically the rock bottom pricing per hundred.
Yeah, and I think any form sells. That's what's cool is that some people like CDs, some people like vinyl, some people are like a USB stick. So I think there's a market for any media that you can put your music on. The tough part is you can't put your eggs all in one basket like you used to with CDs, where that was the main way people consumed their music. So that's kind of a disadvantage. It takes a little bit longer to sell 100, 200 CDs than it used to, but you can't ignore any of those markets, because there's a market for all of those different type of media.
Absolutely. And I like the idea of when you would go to an album release show, you could sign up for the mailing list. And if you signed up for the mailing list, you got free exclusive content just by being on the mailing list. That's happened a lot, and I think that's a great trend to have.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good marketing technique, because, if you have someone's email address or even their snail mail address, you can continue to keep your music and your news and your message in front of them month after month after month after month, and that's definitely worth something. So if you can give them an incentive to turn over their information, it's definitely a good thing as a band.
Let's talk about this show you have coming up on the Hard Rock. We're actually going to be opening, the Wire Riots will be opening for your show. It's going to be a great turnout, a great crowd, and there's so many reasons to go out to this show. Some of them being that it's going to be a weekend, so it's not going to be a lot of things going on sports-wise here in the city.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a really great and diverse lineup. We got Ashley Mullins featuring Greg Campano starting the show with more acoustic type stuff. Wire Riots are going to crank up the volume and the energy with some punk and hard rock. And then Chip and the Charge Ups will be debuting a lot of our new material off of our new album. So it's going to be a great time, great venue at the Hard Rock Cafe. A lot of people love to go there for the atmosphere. And, we're just let's put it this way. Party is a very, very appropriate word to have in the title of this event, because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a party atmosphere, and people are going to walk away with a smile on their face, glad that they went, and with lots of memories to keep with them.
It's going to be outrageous. It's going to be unbelievable, and it's going to be an electrifying event. And what excites me about this particular album release party is the new material. And I know that you guys were sitting on this, you were sandbagging this material for a long time. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so one of the things that we like to do is treat the members of our Patreon program to something special, and that something special can either be a exclusive track that only they'll get, or they'll get a track from an upcoming release before the rest of the world. So we actually started recording songs for this album in December of 2018.
Wow.
Just so we could leak those to our Patreon members early.
That's smart. I like that.
So we put a few tracks out to them pretty early in the process. And then we did have a little bit of a setback with our drummer, Jeff, needing elbow surgery. So he was sidelined for 6 months. And then we actually kept the recording process going during his recovery, and then finished up recording in December of 2019. So what was cool is that we kind of got to grow as a band and be very intentional about our crafting of the recording, and taking our time, making sure the mixes and the mastering was just right. So that was kind of cool. That probably of any release I've ever done, this was the most carefully crafted in the sense that we could really spend time, we could listen, and then a couple weeks later go back and say, you know what, I think I'd like to hear a little more in the mix of this or that or the other thing, and really craft it to try to really make it a masterpiece that people will love.
And there's something to be said about the saying, tragedy turns to triumph, because it's a glass half full thing. A lot of people think, well, this guy's sidelined because he's getting surgery now. All bets are off. Now we're back to square one. No, that's not the case here. And that's not the case a lot of times. And I think a lot of musicians should think that way. No, it's not the end of the album. No, it's not going to put the brakes on the momentum, and now it's not going to sound the same. You can't really have that mindset. What you have to do is think forward positive. Now we have the time to really listen to this, to really make this something different, something special that everyone's going to like.
Yeah, absolutely. That was really the beauty of it, that we didn't have to rush it. We put out 2 albums already in our first 11 months as a band. We put out 2 albums, so we have plenty of material out there that could keep our fan base entertained while we're crafting what we think is a pretty darn good album, and definitely our best one yet, no doubt about it.
Yeah, loving it so far. And I think that when the fans say, well, we haven't heard anything from you in a year, 2 years, what's going on? We're losing interest. Now it's time to just throw out a single. Here's a single. Mm-hmm. Here's something to tide you over. We're there. We're working on it. We hear you. We read the emails. We're reading the fan pages. Trust us. We are in the studio making it happen. Same thing. We don't want to rush it. We want to make it right. And we want to make it right for you. Because all these songs we do, it's for you. It's not for us. It's for you.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, one thing that we tried to do, and actually have been pretty successful at executing, is putting out some type of content from our previous release, whether it be a video or a lyric video. I think
that's a new popular thing, the lyric video, yeah.
Yeah, I think the majority of our songs on our first 2 albums, every couple of months we're putting out a new video or lyric video. So, maybe someone didn't get the album. Maybe they weren't at our last album release show, and then they didn't think to look it up on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever streaming service they subscribe to, but putting a lyric video out for a song or a video out for a song can introduce something that